Good afternoon, CBAD 373. We are checking in on an executive briefing for quarter two. For quarter one, your decisions were relatively straightforward and pretty simple. You made up some individual goals, assigned the role assignments to each of the individual members of your team, as well as the leadership assignments. And hopefully at this point had started discussing your strategy based off of the information that you had in quarter one. The most important thing to remember from quarter one is that there are a lot of decisions that need to be made, a lot of research and understanding of the market's simulation that has to be done. And so therefore, it's really important that the roles be filled by each of the team members. This is going to move fast, and there's a lot of information, and there's not a lot of room for slacking at this point. So everybody's going to have to contribute. Everybody's going to have to do some contribution. You can consider about 70% of your time is going to be individual, reading, listening, participating in the simulation yourself, and about 30% of it is going to be group discussions where you get together and make final decisions. I highly recommend that you assign one person to enter all of the data henceforth, or all the decisions. And that way you don't have issues of timing wise. You know exactly who's responsible for what. Before we jump into the decisions for quarter two, I'm going to give you a little bit of overview regarding where we are in the simulation. This is a quarter where you are going to be making strategic decisions for your business. So it's really important that you have had the time to talk, to discuss, and first understand what's going on in the simulation, what markets you have. You should have all purchased some level of market research. You should do this every quarter, but that market research is what is giving you the information that you need to start making decisions for your strategic positioning. So what's important at this point is not necessarily what your strategy is, but the rationale behind it. Make sure that if you're choosing a market, a segment, or a geographical location, that your rationale behind it is sound, based in business concept. If you have questions, you can email me. That's what I'm here for, and I will also be watching each of your teams individually. But also understand that flexibility is important. Things are going to change. Understanding of the marketplace is going to change over the next few quarters. The market itself will change based off of what's happening amongst all the competition. So flexibility in that you can change, but understand you can't change much. You're not going to be able to change the location of your manufacturing plant. It's not going to be very easy or cost effective to uproot sales offices and move them, or uproot sales people and move them. So while you are not locked into anything, just like in a real business, you're not locked into anything, a few of your decisions are really, really important, which is why now is the time to talk about that strategy. The other thing to remember is that you need to be consistent. If you are choosing a market segment, or if you are choosing a geographical area, if you are deciding to pursue a particular brand, again, while it's really important that you understand that it can change and you can change, some level of consistency is important. Brand loyalty is built up in this simulation. So customers are looking at brands for consistency. Customers are looking for companies to deliver products that are consistent. Your message needs to be consistent. Your manufacturing needs to be consistent. So while that may not seem or may not make a lot of sense right now, as you continue through the quarters, it will. Again, understanding that you can be flexible, that you can change, but there are certain levels of your business strategy that need to be consistent. And lastly, this quarter is a fairly simple quarter. The decisions are pretty straightforward. You are going to be making some strategic decisions, but for the most part, there's very little uncertainty in this quarter. So the big decisions, the big uncertainty starts next quarter. So keep that in consideration as you're discussing amongst your team the decisions that need to be made for now. So getting into the decisions for quarter two, one of the first decisions you have is to determine where the factory is going to be located, the factory that is going to produce the computers that you are going to supply to the marketplace. Again, the considerations you have to make are not as simple as just opening a production facility. You have to look at labor costs. You have to look at production cost, transportation costs. This decision has to be made in parallel with your sales offices. So you have a limit on what you can, the capacity that you can build. You have a limit on the number of sales offices that you can open at this point. But all of this stuff entwines together. So your production facility, how does it relate to your sales offices? Discuss this with your team. What are the strategies that you need to be looking at when you decide where to put your production facility? Also keep in mind that you're going to have one production facility, one production line. It is extremely cost prohibitive to open a second production line. You can do it in the simulation. You can open a second manufacturing facility, but you need to ask yourself, are the costs associated with opening, which is probably one of the most expensive asset capital expenditures that you're going to have for your business, is that worth it? It might be. Don't know, because the simulation changes, your output could change. But for the time being, plan on one production facility and one production line. The next decision you're going to have is the actual size of the facility, the production facility. Now, the simulation actually limits you to the size of the facility. So in a way, it governs your decisions so you don't pour all of your capital into your manufacturing facility. And your decision basically is 25 or 50 units. And you're going to see through your research and through looking at the simulation and running scenarios that it is expensive to build a facility. It's expensive to increase capacity. So you have a question for yourself. Do you grow the facility quickly and risk having all of your assets tied up? Or do you start with a smaller capacity and use that capital in other parts of your business? The one thing to remember, and I'm probably going to iterate this here and there and throughout, is that being conservative is not really a good strategy. It's never a good strategy. Having money and having working capital in your bank account does not grow the business. You cannot grow a business earning 0.5% or 1% on your money in the bank account. The only way your money works is if it is out in the marketplace working, whether that is a production facility, increasing production capacity, lowering cost in production, or increasing the sales channels. There is no right answer. Okay, that's business, and that's the whole point of this simulation. You're going to have to discuss with your team where you put the capital, where you risk the capital, but get it out there in the marketplace. If you increase capacity in your production, that is less money that you can put into sales. But if you put all your money into sales, then you don't have the production capacity to fill the orders once you have a big influx from your sales people. So plan. This is an easy quarter to plan. You only have a couple of decisions. Make those decisions amongst your team, but your strategy should be looking forward to the future, your future quarters and what you plan on doing and how you plan to allocate your capital. The next decision is your distribution strategy. Your distribution strategy are your sales offices. You cannot sell a computer unless you have a facility in the marketplace where you can sell it. The simulation obviously does not take into consideration email ordering or email delivering. So your question is, where are you going to put your sales offices? Now you've got market research. You see what the market sizes are, what the market potentials are, what the profitability potentials are. We're going to get into those considerations in just a minute, but for the time being, just understand that you have to be making these decisions and you have to be planning forward. You need sales offices in locations in order for your customers to find and purchase your product. If you do not have sales offices in a geographical area, nobody's going to buy your product there. Sales offices are expensive to open. Distribution is not cheap. It is expensive. You have to train salespeople. You have to pay salespeople. And so these are the considerations you have to make. Where are you going to open your distribution facilities, your sales offices? So right now, I believe you can only open a couple. So decide where you're going to put those distribution facilities. Make sure that your rationale behind that is sound, and make sure that you have a plan for your next outlets, for your next sales outlets in quarter 3, in quarter 4, and quarter 5, where you're going to continue to grow. Another significant decision your team is going to be deciding in this quarter is your brand design. Now is the time to start looking at what type of computer you are going to create. A lot of considerations go into this. You need to be looking at your market research, obviously, to determine which segments you're going to target, what their needs are, and then what components you are going to put into your product. Remember that the customers don't buy components, they buy benefits. What are the benefits you are offering to them? In your readings and in the And in the simulation, it talks about a point of diminishing returns. You don't know what your customers' diminishing returns are. You don't know how many benefits each of the segments are going to produce. That is the beauty and that is the curse of entrepreneurship and running a business. If you are running a business or you're running a department in a business that is asking you to determine how to sell and what components to sell, there's only one way to know, and that is through market research and through trial and error. So you are going to be making some initial brand decisions right now because you're going to introduce it to the marketplace next quarter, and you don't know how well it's going to sell. You can only go off of market research right now. So as you continue, keep in mind that you are going to be creating new brands in the future. You are going to be changing as you collect information. You are going to be making investments in research and development for your own components and your own benefits and features that you offer in your computer. So keep all of that in mind as you plan. There should be some kind of discussion amongst your team about a brand architecture, meaning what kind of computers are you going to create for the segments that you are gonna build? Are you gonna build different varieties for each of your segments, or are you gonna build just one for each of your segments? Discuss. You're going to need to make that decision. There's no right or wrong answer because all of it comes down to your execution of the brand and how well that brand is relating to the target segment. Now, there are measures in the simulation, which we will go over in later quarters, that kind of give you a better indication. But for the time being, it's time to start thinking about what kind of brand you are going to make. Now, keep in mind also, regarding changeover costs and time, that anytime you have a production facility, if you create a brand, if you are making a brand and you change to make a different type of computer or a computer with different type of components, that requires your production facility to stop, change their equipment, set it up, and start producing. The simulation tells you approximately or gives you an estimation of how long each of those changeovers cost. And when you have changeover, you have costs because you have people that are not working. You have time when the facility is open. All of these things are estimated in your simulation. They can be improved through investments into your production facility, which you will have the opportunity to do throughout this simulation. But for the time being right now, just understand that the more brands you have, the higher the changeover cost. However, the more brands you have, the more options consumers have, and the more data you collect to be able to shift. It is a decision that you and your team are going to have to decide and weigh out the cost benefits between the two. The last thing we're going to discuss are a couple of considerations you need to make or to understand going into quarter two. First, the data that you have received or the data that you have purchased give you some kind of indication of the size of each of the segments, size of geographical markets, as well as the profit potential. The first thing you need to understand is that demand is not finite. It is not stagnant. Demand can increase. The overall demand in this marketplace can increase if you are producing the right products for the right customers and you are delivering the right message and creating the right visibility for your product. And that is the market as a whole. So if all the teams are doing the right things, the market can grow exponentially. And I've seen it grow exponentially. So don't get too caught up in the market research except for preliminary understanding of what can happen. Meaning you might have one market segment that looks small, but it could be bigger if a lot of the companies are targeting that. So keep that in mind first. The other thing to remember is that the market research gives you a lot of data regarding profitability, market size, but it's important to really understand who these market segments are. Customers who are in the cost cutters, who are less or more price sensitive, are more reactionary to price changes and price decreases and price increases, where the Mercedes on the other end are very much geared toward they are willing and have the money to be able to pay for more features. So segments that are that show a lot of profit potential are very attractive, but keep in mind that they are smaller. And remember that the more volume create through your sales, the lower you get your production costs. So, but at the same time, if you are producing a lot of volume, working off a smaller profit margin, And a lot of times, a lot of the companies go after these for the volume purposes, which creates a lot of competition, which can be good, but can also be detrimental if everybody's offering the exact same product. It creates a lot of competition in a segment or a geographical area. So these are decisions, and these are tough decisions, and there is no right answer. It's one of the reasons why I love this class is everybody emails me, or I'll talk to people on one-on-one coaching, and they'll say, well, what's the right answer? I just want to know what I was supposed to do, and there is no right answer. Okay, the simulation is great in that regard, and that's the way business works. So the best you can do right now is look at these segments, decide as a team which segments you want to target, be comfortable with your rationale, and then as the quarters go on, that you collect your information and you continue to look at your strategy as you go. The last thing that you need to consider for quarter two, which we kind of touched upon, is competition. So obviously one of the considerations for your strategy that your team is going to talk about is how is competition going to affect our business, or at least it should be. So you're going to be looking at what segments you're going to target, which geographical areas you want to target, but then you need to look at and try to predict what the competition is going to do. Again, competition can be good. It can help you in certain markets raise visibility, create more market demand. But you have to be careful, because if both companies are targeting the exact same segment with the exact same products and the exact same features, of course there's going to be cannibalism, and you guys are going to compete for a smaller portion or the same portion of the market segment. So you don't know. So you have to have that discussion. But competition, when you're looking at the segments, you're going to obviously look at which segments are going to be most attractive to other companies. Try to predict what other companies are going to do. This situation is much akin to a scene in The Princess Bride, if you've ever seen The Princess Bride, when Wesley kind of matches wits with Vizzini in the poison competition, when you're looking at the competition and trying to say, what are they going to do? And so they're possibly going to do this, so therefore we're going to do that. But possibly maybe they had predicted that I was going to think that way, so therefore I should do the opposite. This is really the discussion. This is really the beauty of business, is the unknown, the uncertainty, but have the confidence that what you're doing is the right decision. Discuss with your team. Make sure that your teammates are all comfortable with your decisions. And again, understand that as the simulation progresses, you will have the opportunity to switch and shift and change a little bit. You are still early in the simulation, so small mistakes or mistakes that you make right now can be corrected. Teams can come out of the dumps, but by and large, the teams that succeed are the ones that truly understand and have strong rationale at the very beginning, have a very good strategy long term over the next few quarters of what they want to do, how they want to pursue segments, what they want to do with the production, and so forth. So these discussions, while very soft, are needed, because over the next several quarters, you're going to be introducing product, increasing production, increasing sales, watching things come back in. So the decisions become a little bit more uncertain. So good luck this semester. Good luck this quarter. If you have any questions, let me know.